So today we'll be looking at our studio admin tools, access control, analytics, and item manager. We view them as a unified, secure, and scalable set of tools for GIS administration. My name is Peter McLaren. I'm the Senior Customer Success Manager, and I'm joined by Paul Van Haren, who is the Solutions Engineering Manager at VertiGIS Studio. We are also joined by Harry, who will be looking at your questions and trying to answer them in real time. So, introduction. So basically today we're going to take a look at, the VertiGIS Studio platform or framework in relation to ArcGIS, as well as, in particular to our admin tools. Looking also a little bit at, GeoCortex Studio, there is a little bit of connective tissue there, so to speak, specifically around analytics. We'll also really focus on the admin tools, looking at the business value, doing some demonstrations, and then a wrap up. In 2025, we did several focused product showcases. These include our framework, web, workflow, search, printing, and reporting. Today, starting in 2026, we're going to look at some admin tools, that being analytics, access control, and item manager. So the main thing that we want to get across today, I think, is really, how Studio access control and analytics really serve, the purpose of supporting the user experience. And we can see through various examples that this is something that many organizations and many different types of industries and verticals can take advantage of. I'll let you take a look at this for a minute. Maybe you'll find something within your specific vertical, how that aligns with your business processes. Same thing with analytics. Analytics is really very heavily in the IT administration world. However, we do see other areas where analytics can be used to support various types of reporting and efficiencies. From IT, of course, all the way down to procurement, finance, executive leadership, and other kinds of teams, for example, compliance and legal. So our story, GeoCortex to VertiGIS Studio. GeoCortex Essentials being an all-in-one viewer framework, kind of everything and the kitchen sink, was built on the JavaScript 3.x API. Seeing the writing on the wall in maybe 7 years ago, we realized that, the JavaScript 4.x API, the 4.x API was coming up strong and steady, and, we needed to really pivot to make sure that we were able to support our customers going forward. So we rewrote our viewer frameworks and capabilities, including permissions, now in access control, and GeoCortex Analytics, a classic product that was part of the GeoCortex Essentials brand of products. And we've been with Esri for quite a long time. We're a platinum business partner. Our go-to-market strategy is 100% with Esri. We've been with them since the classic ArcIMS days, all the way down to today with Experience Builder, Online Portal, and Enterprise. Our release calendar. Quite important. 2026, we're going to see two releases of analytics, February and August. These dates are subject to change. And access control in March and September. You'll be able to find more information about that upon release, and we will make sure that we note that in the in case you missed it email and other announcements. So where does analytics and access control fit? I like to think of them as two bookends for managing both the access to your resources, as well as understanding how your resources are actually working in real time. So that's kind of like how the two products work together. We'll get into that in a lot more detail shortly. Okay, so our first poll question, I'll just launch that right now. How do you currently monitor which apps and tools your users are currently accessing? It's always good to see what's the actual usage of different technologies and how people are actually doing different things within any kind of area. Seeing a lot of people aren't monitoring at all. That's quite interesting. Okay, so we're going to end and share the results. But what we have here is 35% of you are currently using basic ArcGIS tools only. That is followed, or actually tied with, dedicated monitoring software and not monitoring at all. So there's definitely a lot of area where we can definitely support you going forward. So with that, I'm going to close the poll. And I think, Paul, you're up next.
I am, yeah. No, interesting poll results there. It was sort of an even split across the board. So people from all different situations there. So I Going to do a quick overview of analytics, and I'll do a demo, and then I'll jump into access control and item manager. And really, what analytics is a way to monitor your entire GIS environment, and that includes obviously the ArcGIS environment, but also includes your applications on the VertiGIS Studio side too. So you get the from beginning to end sort of understanding of your entire GIS environment, which is super important. So it's important to see the GIS side, but it's also extremely important to see, are your users using your applications? How are they using them? What tools are they using? Things like that. So a few points here. So it's really a way to visualize historical trends. So it's not just point in time data, it's being able to visualize data over a course of a period of time. And that way you can use that information to really understand the return on investment that you've made on the applications that you're building. So that's what it's all about. So interrogating the data over a period of time and then really understanding your environment. Next thing is the whole preventative versus reactive thing, right? Where you're able to identify the problems immediately or before then users even see them, right? So and that's the dream. So you're able to not necessarily hear the complaints necessarily of maybe of the users on the end user applications, but you're able to sort of identify them before they see them and ensure that their experience remains pleasant, right? So next thing is gain more insight. I mentioned this before, but from beginning to end or front to back, you get the GIS monitoring and you get the studio application monitoring. So you get the whole picture. And really, it's about keeping your apps running optimally. Making sure that everything's running at peak performance and your users are happy. One big thing is, and some of you might be using Monitor today, ArcGIS Monitor today, is why is it different? Why is Studio Analytics different? I already mentioned one reason, which is the application side, and I'll get into that in a second. But really, ArcGIS Monitor, on the ArcGIS Monitor side, it's really a tool designed for maintaining system health. It's really kind of more of a server side, maintaining the health of the servers themselves and the GIS services, things like that. So it's really focused on those areas. Whereas for just Studio Analytics is really about really focused on improving the end user's experience. And so it's not just about the system health, which Analytics does quite well, but it's also, how do we see the data to improve that end user experience? The visual interface, right? So Monitor has gotten better maybe over the years, but still kind of a visually complex interface. Whereas Analytics is a little bit more pleasing on the eyes, easier to navigate, things like that. Yeah, so basically there's really not a lot in Monitor showing individual user activity, whereas that's very much, there's a big focus on Analytics, seeing what the individual users are doing, both in GIS and the applications. The big one there obviously is Monitor does not monitor Studio applications, whereas Analytics does. And the install experience on the analytics side is very simple: lightweight installation, easy setup. Some of you might be familiar with GeoCortex Analytics. That was a little bit more of a difficult install, took a little longer, things like that. That's changed. It's a little easier to install. The agents that you install to monitor the systems is a little easier to install as well. So on the Monitor side, a little bit more complex. The agents require more maintenance. Upgrades are kind of time consuming. You have to go through each one and update everything. That's not really a thing in Analytics. So there's a big difference there, both the install and maintenance side of things. Just a quick look at the architecture here. So you've got your hub server. This is where you install the main hub installation of Analytics. And a database is installed on that server, and then you've got the data API and then the actual application itself. So that's the front end that you interface with. A couple things here. So on the clients, so you've got your web and mobile applications. The information is fed through what we call telemetry endpoints. Those are easy to set up, just referencing URLs. And then on the actual servers themselves, you've got the agents. So just quick installs of agents on each of the servers that you want to monitor. Once you install the agent, it immediately starts sending information back to the hub, picks up whatever Enterprise is installed, ArcGIS servers installed, picks up that information immediately and starts sending information back to the hub. ArcGIS Online works a little differently, but same idea. You've got a monitoring for the SaaS infrastructure there. I'm going to jump into a demo here. So, and the login page for Studio Analytics, this is obviously web-based, so you can control if your users can access it only internally. You can actually expose it externally if you really wanted to as well. That's your choice. But you're able to log in and using different methods. And these are the 3 examples that we have here. So you can log in with ArcGIS Online account, Enterprise account, or even a Windows account. And it's super easy to set those up. So I'm going to log in with an Enterprise account here to begin with. And before I jump in, I am going to go to the settings, but what you're presented with right away is just an overview of everything that's being monitored, at least in this instance of analytics. So we've got servers, ArcGIS servers, portals, all of this stuff I'll get into later. But really the first page you see is an overview page. You sort of see the alarms, you see what servers are being monitored, things like that. So you immediately are presented with some information, maybe some important information that you need to see right away. I'm going to jump into settings really quick here and show you kind of how it works on the back end. So security providers, these are the providers I just talked about. So these are the 3 different methods I can use to log in. We have ArcGIS Online, Enterprise, and Windows. And for each of those providers, you can then set up groups and users specifically on who has access to do what in analytics. So you can have, only certain users that have access to analytics. And then those users may only have viewer access if they don't have access to actually change the settings or see anything on the back end. Whereas in this case, we've got an ArcGIS Enterprise group that is specific for administrators of analytics, right? So you're specifying those users. So if they log in, they have admin access, they can make changes. Same with Windows, you get the idea. You can set these permissions and who has access to what. Agents are going to be what I just talked about in the diagram there. So you install an agent, simply just open analytics on the server that you want to install the agent on, and you can download the agent installer. It installs quickly, and then it starts sending information. It picks up the installation on what's installed on that server, like portal and ArcGIS server, and starts monitoring, sending data right to the hub immediately. So that's what I talked about before, super easy install and easy to maintain. That's the 4 agents that we have installed there. Endpoints are going to be for the application. So this is that telemetry URL that I talked about. This is where you're going to set up that you create your URL here. You just simply reference that URL in the application, the VertiGIS Studio application, and then that immediately starts sending information about user data, map surface data, all that sort of stuff through this method. So again, super easy to set up that resource. I'm going to hop into here and just mention alarms for a minute. So I'm going to go into servers and go into the settings for servers and go to alarms. And this is where you're going to set up the individual alarms for each of the resources that you're monitoring. So in this case, we've got CPU usage, maybe a common thing that you might want to monitor for a server itself. And this is where you can set those thresholds. So, it's a warning presented if CPU usage goes over 50%. How, did it happen more than once? And, you can set the warning to only be presented after a certain amount of occurrences, that sort of thing. If you wanted to get a little bit more creative with your alarms and your alerts and things like that, you can actually add it in simple scripts to do that. So if you wanted to make your thresholds or your alarms a little bit more conditional, right? Only in certain conditions, certain time of day, even things like that. You can set up a quick script here to and add it to your warnings or your alarm, sorry. And you can send alerts through email, text, and again, kind of configuring those custom alarms. So let's quick look at that. So now we're going to go back. So we're out of settings, so easy to kind of set up there on the back end. Now we're going to go through each one of these and sort of go through a couple of use cases here of kind of how this works. So again, this is the overview page. I can click into the individual resources if I want to jump into the ArcGIS server, for example, start seeing information there. I could. So it's sort of a jump page on this overview page. So jump into servers. On the left-hand side, I've got the 4 servers that I'm monitoring. And so the status tab in this case is going to show me information about all 4 of the servers at once, right? So I'm not looking at an individual server here. I'm looking at an overview of all of the servers that I'm monitoring. And so we can see some used memory, just kind of some information here. Trends is going to be, you're going to see a chart of all of the servers that are being monitored here. In this case, we're going to see the metric of CPU usage. We can look at memory as well, and we'll just come up in a second here we're pulling in data here for 4 different servers, so you can see that now we're populating over a course of, in this case, you can see 2 months. So I can see CPU usage, memory use, things like that. I want to bring up the calendar here just to show you how you can view data in certain periods of time, right? So I'm viewing data back from June to July of 2025. But I could do today, or I could do last week. You get these quick jump things, or I can pick a certain time range too. So it's really easy to kind of pick and choose what data time frame that you're looking for. I'm going to look at this individual server here. So if you look at an individual server, so this prod demo one is an individual server. I can see again CPU usage, memory usage, things like that. But if I wanted to kind of see a little bit more on this, so I can change it to in the disk usage, for example, I can change this to percent used or average write speed. So if I'm looking at specifics on what's happening when we're writing to the disk and things like that, is it writing to the disk as expected at the speeds we're expecting, things like that. We can look at the table at the bottom here as well. So each section has a table of data that we can look at. So I'm going to actually scroll down here a little bit. You can see there's a bunch of other stuff. And I can go into alarms. So this is where we've got some alarms set up for this individual server. And what we can do is sort of expand the table and see more information about those alarms, right? What was the trigger? What threshold did it hit? Things like that. The duration, how long was it taking place? Things like that as well. So what we can do now is kind of go back to the status page just quickly here. Scroll back up. Lots of data here. By the way, I'm not touching on all of the data that's present. If I did that, I would be here for a few hours, and I don't think we all want to do that today. But I'm just kind of pointing out a few data points. On the status page, it's really just a snapshot of what the server it contains, right? So we've got some information about the server, alarms, things like that. So we're going to see all that information here on the status page. All right, so moving on, we're going to go into ArcGIS servers. Going to spend just a couple minutes on the ArcGIS servers. I'm going to jump right into this server itself. We've only got one server that's being monitored here in this case. And on the status page, we've got some information about this server, ArcGIS server. So we've got all of the number of services, utility, network server, the versions, things like that are all here. Web adapters, all the services that are contained within it. So again, status is really just a snapshot of what you're seeing here. I'm going to jump right into for the sake of time, I'm going to jump in right into a map service itself and have a look at what we see. So in this is a map service called Naperville. We get some information there on the status page. But what I'm really interested in is the trending data, right? So over time. So just a little use case here. If I was curious about, I got a report from a end user, hey, this buildings layer, or any layer really, but in this case, a buildings layer, it's running slow. I'm not sure why it's not responding quickly. Seems like every time I try to query it or load it, it's very slow. So you might go in here and say, okay, well, let's see if the data shows the same, right? Is it sort of something on the back end that's actually causing this? So I'm going to go down to layer table operations and see specifically on this layer. So I'm going to go to group, and group allows you to specify which points of information that you want to include in your chart. So I'm going to include the operation because I want to see what the user is doing. And then I want to go to legend, and I can kind of see all of the different the queries that are being made. You can see I've got my buildings layer here. That's the one I'm curious about, and those are the 5 different kind of requests that and operations that I might be curious about, especially queries, things like that, something common like that. So I got my filter tool up here that I can then filter out the buildings layer. So I can go to name contains buildings. And now I can filter out the chart just to that. So now I can see in here the buildings layer, number of queries over time. So if I saw like 2,000 queries of the buildings layer over certain periods of time over the day, that might indicate why it's performing terribly. You could also do average processing time. So that's the number of operations, just a hard number, but what's the processing time? So how long does it take to actually run a query in this case? So almost a second, which is pretty quick. But if you see a few seconds, a minute, or more, that's obviously there's something up with that service, right? So, you take this information, you maybe look at the ArcGIS server logs a little bit more closely and see what might be causing this. But it really could be just the number of queries on the operations, right? Number of queries, hitting the service at the same time, slowing it down, all of that sort of good stuff. I'm going to scroll down to errors, and what you can see in the errors table is specifics about the errors, right? So we've got a lot of errors here. Let's see, just going to expand the table a little bit more. And you can see for each of these, for this feature service, we've got a lot of kind of type layer issues. I'm going to scroll over to see if I can find any other ones, but yeah, there's a few others. Invalid where clause, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see the details of the error itself here, which is kind of nice. And then you can get, again, it gives you more information on where to go from here. Keep in mind you can export these tables, so you can export it into a CSV or Excel file as well. So you can take the data with you if you need to, run a report on it, whatever you need to do. Okay, that's a quick overview of ArcGIS Server. There's a lot more data in here again, but we only have an hour today, so I'm going to just a quick example. All right, so I'm going to hop back over to ArcGIS portals, and this is where you're going to see more information about the portal itself, obviously. So I'm going to jump right into the portal and see what we have. So under status, I'm going to jump over here. We can see the version of the portal. In this case, obviously, it's going to be 11.3. Users, any alarms as we normally see, the federated server, user rundown of user types, the users, things like that. What we can do in here actually is set, if we were curious about just another use case here, the user types. I'm like, how many professional users, user types do we have in our environment, right? So an easy way to do that is to specify the user type as one of the data points, hit my filter, and we're going to do user type, I always like to do contains, and then username, or user type, sorry. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry, professional. Professional, sorry. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Right. So we get a list of all of the professional user types in our group. So I'm going to put that in here so we can see that these are all professional advanced users. So we get just a rundown of those users, which is kind of nice, a little tool to have. One other thing we can do is go into trends, and you can do an item usage. So we're going to kind of modify this view a little bit here. So we can go to filter, and let's say I was curious about whether people were using workflows, right? And so so there's an item type it's stored as a workflow item type in the portal. So what I can do is filter by that. So I'm going to do item type contains again, and then workflow. We now see that. We can also do the name of it, so itself, so we can see what the specific workflow is, right? So we've got all the workflows listed here. Still looks like it's kind of the data is piled into the end of July here, but we can modify the date if we needed to. But just again, another easy way to look at how many times workflows are being run, which workflows are they? Are they being used as expected? Things like that. It's a nice little thing on the portal side there. We'll see more on the app side, but this is nice to at least see on the portal side. ArcGIS Online, very similar. I'm going to move quickly here, but our ArcGIS Online is very similar. Just wanted to point out a couple of things here. Go into status alarms. You can see just what's going on here. One thing of note is credits remaining. That's a key thing to remember in ArcGIS Online environments. There's always a credit issue potentially. So it's nice to see that. You can set thresholds on credits there. What we can do as well is go into credit usage here. So now we can go into a little bit more detail of maybe who's using the credits, right? If we can get into more specific. So item name, username, and category is what we want. So we can see the name, and what we can do is start to sort of cross out some of these none. These are just maybe anonymous access, things like that, or it's not assigned to any individual user. And then we can kind of see which users at what date we're using credits, that sort of thing over a period of time. and how are they using it. So this isn't really great information that you can kind of find it in Portal, but not like this, certainly. Being able to find specifically what credits are being used, what date, and how many, and what type, things like that. So again, lots more information in there, but I'm just showing you just quick examples here as I go along. Okay, getting into the app side now. So this is where we're looking at Studio web apps. So these are going to be your web applications, Studio web applications. And really, it's all about looking at the users. What are the users doing? So when I click on status, we're looking at an overview of all of the applications in this environment. In this case, sitting in our ArcGIS Enterprise environment. So we're going to see across all environments. In this case, we see a top-down view of everything. And again, under trends, we're going to see the same thing, sort of data across all of our applications. So this is a demo environment. There's a lot of applications, so there's a lot of data here. So I'm going to drill in, because there's so much data, I'm going to drill in a little bit and look at some specific information here. So we're going to go into the second last one here. And so we're going to look at this government app specifically and look at the status. We'll look at status first. So we can set up alarms. We can jump into this specific application, see the version. We can see number of workflows, reports, things like that that are in this application. So again, status is that snapshot. And of course, our alarms would be firing here if there were any. Getting into trends for this, we want to look at sessions. We're going to kind of dig into sessions here a little bit. So what we want to do is first want to see more information about sessions. So we want to look at, let's say there's an example here where, again, an example of a user comes and says, hey, I'm using the Edge browser, opening this application, it's terrible. It runs fine in Chrome, it's terrible in Edge. What might be going on, right? So we can actually dig into that a little bit using this. So I'm going to change some metrics here a little bit. So I'm going to change the average UI load time to view that data. I'm going to add some additional parameters to my search here. So I'm going to use user. So just looking at this individual user, whoever approached me. I'm going to look at viewer, browser, OS version, and that should be good. So we can kind of dig in. We got lots of information here. We got a lot of nuns though, so we maybe want to look at that. But we're going to look at Edge browsers only. So we're going to look at browser for the filter and type in Edge, and we see some information there. So we get version of Windows, version of the viewer, all sorts of information there. And now we can look at the average UI load time. Does it reflect what the user was saying, maybe on the date and time that they were saying it? So this is the UI, this is the actual application loading. We can then look at even map loading time as well. Is there a comparison there? Is it the map that's causing issues? Things like that. So you can really kind of narrow down specific users, versions, browsers, all that sort of good stuff. If we scroll down a little bit, we can go into Studio app usage. There's lots more data in here, actions, map actions, but there's going to focus on the Studio app usage here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of remove some items from this chart, because there's some workflows in this case that are really skewing the results, things that are workflows that are running constantly. Like this one here runs every single time the map extent changes, so it's firing constantly. So we're going to remove that from our list. We're going to remove swap layout as well. That one runs all the time. And we're just going to have a look at all the different applications that are being used here. So now we can kind of look at the different workflows that are being used, the reports that are running for each of the individual users here. You can also look at a little bit further into the data, and you can look at, okay, how long did it take to run that workflow? So if they were running this parcel search, how long are they in that workflow? What's the general duration, max duration? So how long was the top number, I guess, right? But the average is like, how long are they spending in that workflow, if that is a data point that you're curious about. Scrolling down, searches, identifies, map visibility changes is a nice one to really understand who's turning on and off layers in the application. So if they're turning off layers all the time, maybe you turn the default visibility off on that web map, right? If everybody's turning it off, why have it on by default? Turn it off, might speed things up on the startup as well. So it's a nice little tool or a graphic to show the number of times folks are changing visibility. Of course, I could narrow it down to individual layers, things like that, through the filter tools that I showed you before. Looking at map visibility changes, yeah, I wanted to highlight custom events. I don't have any data here, but I wanted to highlight what custom events are. And these are events that you can add into, say, a workflow, for example, where you can add in a little activity in your workflow, and it will feed into analytics. And so, as an example, you run a parcel search workflow. You're curious how many times people are choosing search by address, for example. And you can actually add a custom event to understand and get metrics on who's choosing what in a workflow. So who's choosing what path or what options in a workflow. Are people using, and that kind of brings into like, are people using the tools like, as you expect them to? Is it the most efficient way to do it? So you can really kind of dig in, are they using the workflows, but also like what are they actually doing in the workflow, which is really cool. And then at the end, we've got alarms. So in this case, we've got an alarm for map load time, and we can understand that a little bit further here in our in chart form. Okay, so keep moving here. This is, again, lots of different data points, but we can move into mobile now. So mobile is similar to Studio Web applications, but it's a little bit different, right? So it's different use cases here. So I'm going to just click on the capital city application specifically. Same idea here is on the status tab. We've got just some information about this application itself, what layers it contains, and the different workflows, things like that. But I'm going to focus in on the trending data. And what we can do is narrow down, this is another scenario. If the user said, hey, on my iPad, or maybe there's several users are saying, hey, on our iPads, this mobile application runs terribly and runs slowly. You know, what's going on? What might be going on these iPads? Works fine on our Android devices or on our Windows tablets, whatever it is, but runs terribly on the iPads. So we can dig into that here, right? So we're going to dig into on the mobile side. We're going to dig into user, viewer version, device type. OS version are good. We can even do screen resolution. So this might give us a little bit more information about the device they're using, I guess. And we can see all that information here. So we want to narrow it down now to iPads, like I said, right? So we want to go to device, contains iPad. Now we've got all of our iPads. You can see the versions in there as well. So maybe, you know, the ones that are running slowly, this is just number of sessions. So I can do average, you know, load time, map time, that sort of thing. So you can see maybe certain versions are running slowly where others aren't, right? So maybe it's like, hey, go update your iPad. Looks like it'll fix your issue, things like that, right? So just little tidbits of information to work with. Scrolling down, what's unique to mobile devices is also the map area downloads. So you can understand when they're working offline, how long is it taking essentially to download a map area? How long is it taking to update that map area? Things like that. So if this one's an outlier here. This one took 14 minutes to download. So that was either a massive map area, or you know, maybe there's something wrong. Maybe it's causing an issue there. So definitely gives you kind of insight of map area management on the mobile side. Okay. You got to keep moving here and move into now access control. And we're going to do a poll first. Peter.
Excellent. So going to the poll question, the next poll question is, do you see VertiGIS Studio Analytics solving challenges for your organization? Okay, so we're at 50%. We'll give it another minute or so. What we're seeing is that, yes, absolutely, is by far and ahead the number one answer. So that's wonderful to see. And that is changing a little bit as we go through and allow more people to come on board. So yeah, we're at 70%. I'm going to stop and share the poll and share the results. Okay, so yes, absolutely at 32%, possibly, but need more details. We do have our frequently asked questions document in our materials tab, which is the pay-per-click and paper right next to the questions tab. So please download that. That might answer some of the questions that you may have. And we are still taking questions for analytics, and we'll be doing that for access control momentarily. So going forward, like we also have a lot of not sure's at 24%, and the remainder are no, we already have a solution, and we don't have any analytic changes at about 15%. Excellent. So I'll close the poll and let Paul proceed with the next part of the presentation.
Great. Thanks, Peter. Good to see some interest there. That's great. Okay, so moving on to VertiGIS Studio Access Control. So this is where you're setting fine-grained permissions on your map services in your environment, which is great. So key things to think of for access control is setting those fine-grained controls right on the server side. So it basically acts as a proxy. I'll show you a diagram in a second. Acts as a proxy. So all requests that go into from an application. That application could be Experience Builder, could be VertiGIS Studio, could be even the map viewer as well, and just on the portal side. Those requests come in, they go into, before they hit ArcGIS server, they hit access control. Access control picks up what user it is, applies those permissions, and then it sends back out. So it's a server side function here. So it really allows you to go across all applications for data. Saves time, and because of that, it saves time. You don't have to build map services that are specific to specific users and build all these different services all over the place. You can build one map service, maybe has several, tens of layers maybe, and you can set the permissions on that one map service depending on the user that's signing in, so you don't have to build more than one. Big one on security. So, having certain groups only see certain data. I know that's sometimes important in organizations. So that's a big one here, even internally, to restrict who sees what. The interface is great to use. It's an easy to use. You'll see it in a second here. Web-based designer. Again, you can use it by users or groups, and that you can set it by groups in Portal or even in Windows, things like that. So you can set it on both the group and user level. And again, it's really just making sure that the data that's relevant to users is being displayed in the applications they're using. The way it works on the back end, like I just described, if you got the clients on the left-hand side, those requests go inside into the web adapter. Immediately in between the web adapter and the ArcGIS server, you're going to have access controls acting as a proxy, filtering out those requests, retrieving the information then back from ArcGIS server back out to the clients. So pretty basic setup, and really access control handles the, sort of applying those permissions. Let's jump into a demo. So same idea with signing in. It's web-based, you can sign in. The key thing to remember here is you have to sign in with an administrator. There's no option there. You sign in with any other user, it's simply not gonna work. So it has to be the administrator of your organization. So we're going to jump into some demonstrations here on a specific layer. But you can see as I drill down on the server, I've now got all the list of all of the map services, and then I can go drill in further into the individual layers and services from there. So I'm going to focus in on this assets layer under government. And what I'm going to do is focus on work order specifically. So what I can do, first off, let's say, on our map. So I'm going to use the map viewer in Portal as an example. Again, could be Experience Builder, VertiGIS Studio, whatever it is. I'm just going to use the map viewer for today's demo. You can see that these blue features are here. These blue features are work orders. So what I want to do is just simply remove those work orders from the map. So I'm a user that doesn't need access to those work orders. So I'm going to simply just go in here, type in my user. You can see it does an autocomplete. So if I were to search my own name is in there, right? So it does a lookup in your Portal or Windows as well if you need to find your user. Could be users or groups, as I mentioned. And I just simply deny, right? I deny the layer, and I'll come back to these options in a second, but I'm going to deny it. And instantly, if I move my map around, you can see that in a second, those should disappear, and they did. So immediately those permissions are applied, refresh the map, and they disappear. And same thing, I just go ahead and trash this permission, hit save, just do a little wiggle of the map, and they return, right? It's just that easy, right? So that's a basic layer access, pretty simple stuff there. Let's dig into a little bit more detail on fields though. So let's say we wanted to set specific permissions on a couple of fields here. So if I click on one of these features, you can see we've got a couple of fields that I want to interact with. So first one is I want to deny this request ID. I don't feel like the end user needs to see the request ID. And I also want to restrict the user from being able to edit the facility management field. So if I click to edit this feature, you can see I can actually make an edit to this this field, right? So what I want to do is stop that from happening. So if I go back into my access control here, and what I can do, let's do a request ID, and we're going to set on the admin user again. We're going to deny that layer, so we won't see that layer at all. We're going to go back into the category. So we've set one permission. Now we're going to set a for category. We're going to add in, again, for the admin user, we're going to set it to visible. So what this means is it's only visible. So I'm basically taking the edit capabilities away. And editable obviously means that you're maintaining the edit capabilities there. So visible takes those edit capabilities away. Going to refresh the map here just on this one. So now what we should see is when we hit the work order, we don't see that request ID anymore. And if we edit, we will not be able to edit the category. You can see it's kind of bolded now, and I can't edit that field, right? And so that, again, that would take place in any application that you're using. Okay, and delete those permissions there. If I wanted to delete all permissions from this layer, I can do it here, kind of backing up into this section here. I can remove all permissions, so I don't have to go through one by one. Okay, moving on. So those are fields, attribute filters. So let's say I only wanted to see work orders of a certain priority. So I only want to see high priority work orders. So just give me a second here. Viewer likes to take its time. There we go. So if I only wanted to see high priority work orders, I happen to click on one that was high priority. Let's see if we can find one. Oh, that's also high. I swear there's other ones here. Maybe I'm just getting bad luck here, but there's other ones that are, you'll see the map change here in a second. There we go. Just had some really good luck there. Priority, medium. So we're not going to see any of those. We're only going to see the high priority items here. So go to admin for the user. So the condition here is priority is the field name, obviously. And we're going to do equals, and then we're going to do high. So we only want to see high. So you're just sort of specifying the parameter here. If kind of jiggle the map again, we should see only a few remain. So yeah, there's a few here, but these all are going to be high, set to high priority. So nice for, another use case might be show me based on user equals X or logged in user, whatever it is, right? So the field worker for this example might only see the work orders that are assigned to them and things like that, right? So there's lots of different examples you can think of there. Geometry filters are going to be, as it sounds, being able to specify a section of the map for the user to be able to see. So in this case, we're going to restrict an area in the map of these work orders. So the work orders are only going to be seen in a certain region. So I'm going to go just as an example here. So this is a region here in Naperville that I'm working in. I'm going to add a new one. We'll just call it Demo 3. And I can draw a new one. So I'll just kind of draw it. Whoops. Okay, we're going to be a funky shape here. So that's our shape. If we wanted to be a little bit more precise with our area, we can enter in some JSON. So you can actually generate this from the REST endpoint and generate some JSON and paste it right in here. So this could be like in a boundary of some sort, things like that. You can paste that in there to reflect that. Okay, I'm going to save that. And we're going to toggle our map. We should see more work orders come in because I think I cleared them. Yeah, and then we've got just this one little region here. We can see these work orders. So very easy, simple to use. Finally, advanced. So this is where you're going to set advanced permissions that sort of address those edge cases where maybe you've got some complex groups and roles and different, maybe some competing permissions that you want to resolve. And that happens quite often where it's not just as simple as one-to-one. Like there's scenarios that are present that you need to be a little more creative with it. So I'm going to go into advanced. I'm specifically going to all layers and tables simply because it doesn't apply to a single layer, the permission I'm going to add. It applies to all of the layers, and you can of course go down and do a single layer if you wanted to. But this permission I'm gonna set as it sort of applies to the whole scenario. So it's an expression. So you go in and you add your expression. It's an expression editor. There we go. And it's a autocomplete. So you can do this kind of thing where you can start to put in seems to be slow to respond here, but usually it gives an auto, there it is, okay. So you get an autocomplete that comes up and it kind of helps you along kind of creating these scripts. Got a one that, just as an example so you can see it. This one, if I had 2 layer names where cities and countries for this map service, it only applies to those 2 layers. If the user is in role 1 and 2, it has to be those 2 roles. We allow the layer. So basically, if those conditions are not met, then the layer won't be displayed, right? So basic, but you get the idea that it's you're accounting for this unique scenario where they have to be part of certain roles in order to have access to these layers. So that's advanced, and the sky's the limit. Obviously, with that, you're going to have lots of different ways to configure those permissions. Okay, I think we've got another poll here.
Excellent, thank you, Paul. That's great. Lots of great information there. So going to our third poll, how do you currently manage permissions for ArcGIS services? And we'll just start the poll right now. So the 3 answers are default ArcGIS permissions only, manual configuration for each service, role-based access control, custom scripts or proxy solutions. We don't manage permissions at a granular level. Okay, so interesting. It seems that the number 1 currently right now is role-based access control at almost 60%. Did you see that coming, Paul?
No. I mean, it's going to be. Yeah, I didn't assume anything in this question for sure. Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay, so we're going to end the poll and share results right now. And again, looking at around 57% of the respondents have responded that the role-based access control is how they're currently managing permissions for ArcGIS services. Followed very distantly, actually a tie between default ArcGIS permissions only and manual configuration of each service. Excellent. I'm going to close the poll now, Paul, and let you move into Item Manager.
Great. So Item Manager is actually a free utility. So you don't, if you happen to not be licensed with our software today, you can actually use Item Manager today. Just go to apps.vertisstudio.com and you can start using Item Manager, sign in with as your identity, and you can start managing your portal environment. So really it is just that. It's about managing sort of advanced view into managing your ArcGIS items in either ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS portal. Yeah, and so managing the items, it's a free utility, like I just mentioned. It can handle some management tools. So I find a lot of use in it, kind of going in and identifying and kind of cracking open the hood a little bit and seeing what's going on. A lot of times, maybe an item isn't behaving as you expect, or especially in the VertiGIS Studio world, maybe what components are being called and things like that. So, yeah, really great to use this utility. You can compare items, clone items, basically going in and you don't need developer experience necessarily to use this tool. And it's a SaaS-based, web-based designer, so it's easy to use, things like that. So, quick overview there. Let's look at it real quickly here. So same idea, I'm going to sign into ArcGIS portal. It doesn't have to be an admin account. It can be any user account, preferably that can, you don't have to be able to edit items, but if you're going into this tool, I imagine you have edit access to your environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm signed in as an administrator account. I just want to go into the applications that are shared with me. And I'm going to search for a specific application, just search for like a government application. I'm going to add in VSW to the end of that. So if I click on this, then I've got a rundown of all the information I can find on this item. So item details is just a summary of the URLs and kind of different information about the item itself. Item JSON is a full-on rich text editor where you can go in and edit the JSON. So this is more on the map service side of things, where you can kind of identify maybe some things going on with the map services and things like that inside the app. Content is like the configuration of the application itself. So if there's components and things going on, maybe a component isn't working as you expected, or you want to make a hard code a change or whatever you want to do, you can actually go in here, crack this open, and make that manual change. Item resources, is going to be all of the the pictures and things like that that are in the the application itself. So for example, this is a Naperville application. There's a banner that has that image, right? So you can kind of understand all the resources available. You can actually drag and drop files into this interface to add more imageries and make them available in your application as well. Item URLs, as you imagine, all of the different map services that are being used, et cetera, et cetera. One last thing, you can actually compare items as well. So if I wanted to compare these two government VSW apps and understand the differences between them, I can do that. So I can compare, let's say, item JSON, right? And it will actually, it's like a diff tool, right? So it shows the differences between the two. They happen to be a development application versus a production environment application. So some obvious things there, but you get the idea is that if there is a conflict, you're wondering why they're behaving differently, things like that, you can dive into this editor and make the changes if needed, or at least understand. It doesn't, you have to make changes. You can at least understand what the differences are, then maybe go back to the application, make those changes, whatever you need to do. So super handy tool. That was a Studio application, but this same goes, this isn't just Studio. You can go into map services, you can go into Experience Builder applications. The list just goes on and on, right? So there's everything that's contained within the app, within the portal or ArcGIS Online is present here. So quick demo of our item manager. Let's hop back in to you, Peter.
Okay, great. Excellent. Okay, so our next poll question is, which Studio admin tool do you see as most impactful to your organization? And we'll just launch the poll right now. And there are really 4 answers. Okay, so we're going to go and end the poll and share the results. Okay, so at the very top, we're seeing that all of the above does have an impact, so that's wonderful. I do encourage you to download the frequently asked questions documents. They may provide some more value to you and your organizations as you explore these technologies. That's really followed distantly by analytics, and then access control and item manager were kind of tied. So with that, Paul, did you want to, I guess I'll start sharing my screen and just go through the last kind of questions here. In 2025, again, we did a number of product showcases. In 2026, we will be presenting, of course, we presented admin tools. In March, we're looking to present mobile, and followed by inline Studio for Desktop Pro, a newer product that you may or may not be familiar with. And then looking also at cloud and SaaS kind of offerings that we have at VertiGIS North America. Again, the product showcases are always, we will provide the recordings and you can get to them through communities. The recording should be sent post-presentation to registrants, attendees. And we do encourage you to sign up for the next one as you are notified. We also encourage people to attend the Road Ahead webinar because we find there's a lot of great value there. And you can also look at the recordings. The next one is going to be February 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And of course, you can register as soon as you get the notification. And if you're having a hard time finding the registration, just reach out to me and I'll provide that to you. So thank you for joining our presentation, and we hope that you found some value in this presentation. If you've got any questions or comments, please reach out to me or Paul or your account manager, and we're all here to help you get more value out of your investment in VertiGIS Studio technology. Thank you again.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.